Welcome to Align Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda and I'll be guiding our practice today. My question for you as we begin today is this. What are you hoping for? I have an 8-foot Dracnea tree living in a house with 8-foot ceilings, and I almost got rid of it about 6 months ago. I didn't, and about 3 months ago, a miracle happened. It bloomed. I didn't even know it could. I researched it, and sure enough, these trees, sometimes they bloom once in a lifetime, sometimes they bloom every 5 to 10 years. In rare instances, they'll bloom 2 or 3 times a year. But this bloom was amazing. It was about 18 inches long, about 6 inches wide, and the fragrance filled the entire house from top to bottom. What are you hoping for? Sometimes we're tempted to give up, and I never want to be that person that quits praying right before the miracle happens. The psalmist says this to us in Psalm 33, "We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. In him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in his holy name." May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in you. What are you hoping for? I invite you to come to a comfortable seated position, maybe elevating your hips up on a blanket or a block, and move a little bit side to side, front to back. Find those sitting bones and settle in. As you begin to find that firm foundation, think about hope and that anchor that we have that is our Lord and our God. I invite you to draw your shoulders all the way up to your ears and let them drop. And do that twice more and begin to notice how the shoulder girdle moves, how it feels. Do the shoulder blades glide? Do you pull up from the joint? Do you push up from underneath? Settle in. This practice will be focusing on the upper back. And in that, we'll be working quite a bit with the shoulder blades and the shoulder joint. So as you check in today, give yourself permission to make modifications. Give yourself permission to be fully present and to notice what's going on and to make changes when necessary. Find your breath, maybe closing your eyes and letting the day fade. Many of us, myself included, hold tension in the upper back and the neck. Can you begin to release that with breath? As you breathe fully into the lungs, expand shoulder to shoulder and front to back. Can the shoulders get heavy? Can the crown of the head rise towards the sky? Just continue breathing here, breathing in, breathing out. Let the hands come down to the mat. I invite you to stay here for 2 more breaths and begin to feel that breath moving a little more deeply all the way down to the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, maybe there's a little lift in the pelvic floor, an engagement of the abdominal muscles. I invite you to draw your shoulders up to your ears again, but this time, can you just lift up from the serratus muscles underneath? So as you inhale, push them up and release. And then try it by lifting the shoulder joints themselves up to your ears. So that probably takes you up a little bit higher. Notice the difference in the feeling. So again, can you push up from underneath? Can you lift from the shoulder joints? So today in this practice, we're going to really focus on using the entire body, the core muscles, and the breath to push those shoulders up. Take that deep breath in one more time. From underneath, push those shoulders up. And release. Let's add the arms. So start with that deep breath in, push up. And then let the arms rise up, palms together. Notice, And those shoulder joints have come up. Exhale down, but with very little effort. Can the arms and shoulders float as you push up and pull down? I invite you to add the movement of the neck, checking in, noticing how the neck feels today as well. Deep breath in as the gaze rises. Exhaling as the head bows. 2 more times here. Find your pace and begin to work with your breath, always connecting breath and movement. Invite you to bring your arms up in cactus, but it's just a very relaxed and loose cactus. And then from here, can you round those shoulders forward as the palms begin to face down towards the mat? And then push the shoulders a little bit forward. Rotate those shoulder blades as they draw back and in towards the spine and open up across the chest. So you're rotating the shoulder blades, bringing them in, rotating them around, protracting palms to the floor. And then externally rotating, bringing those shoulder blades out and then together and underneath, opening up. One more time like this, not using the arms at all, just using the scapula. And then bring this into your cat and cow. So use those arms. It's an expansive movement as you find that cat. And rotate those shoulder blades and find that cow. And back and forth here. And how big can you make the poses? As we hope, our hope is in the Lord. There will be an answer. And our God is big. One more time, each cat and cow. And then this time, come into that cat, stay there, let the chin drop down, shake your head out a little bit. As you inhale, can you open up across the back, the upper back? And as you exhale, can you draw the belly in and soften the arms? Gently bring that right shoulder forward, lift it up just a little bit, look underneath. Finding stretch across the upper back, maybe in the middle of the back as well. And then press those palms forward, raise them up. Let the hands come down to the side, gently draw the chin down. Bring the right ear to the right shoulder. Notice how the neck feels, chin forward. Left ear to left shoulder. Chin forward. Interlacing the fingers, tucking the belly. Finding cat again. This time the left arm comes forward. And again, can you kind of lift it up from the muscles of the back? Round that shoulder forward and look underneath. And then as you breathe, can you breathe expansively across the back? And as you exhale, can you soften? As you're ready, release. Again, the palms come forward, the arms rise high. Exhale as those hands come behind you. And I invite you to meet me in table. So find table pose, fingers spread wide. And for just a moment here, round the shoulders forward. And then lightly, maybe move the hands a little bit as those shoulders come back. And come forward, fingers forward. As you come back, maybe those pointer fingers turn a little bit more towards the front edge of the mat. Just kind of over-exaggerate this movement. And then meet me at center. From center, begin to find the grip in the hands. Fingers drawing in towards the wrist, elbows drawing in towards each other, shoulders rotated out and around. And then turn the hands to the inside, find stretch there. Turn the fingers to the outside edges of the mat, find stretch here. Rotate the fingers towards the knees. Don't worry about your range of motion, just find your range of motion. Doesn't matter how far back those fingers go. Can you find a stretch in the forearm and the wrist? And then as you're ready, bring those fingers facing forward again. And now just leave the hands where they are, make them strong, and find cat and cow. And as you find that cat, round those shoulders forward. And as you find that cow, rotate those shoulder blades and draw them back and underneath. How does it feel to tilt the hips, beginning to explore sensation all up and down the spine? What's going on in the muscles of the upper back, the middle back, the lower back? And 2 more times here, cat to cow. Meet me in table, curling the toes under, tilt those hips towards the mat, bring the knees up and into the rib cage, press the hips back, shake the head out, no and yes, as the head comes in between the elbows, and begin to pedal through your feet and move the body side to side and just explore downward facing dog. Taking a deep breath in, lift the heels high, exhaling, let the heels come down towards the mat. And then from here, begin to rotate the palms just a little bit so that the pointer fingers are pointing towards the front edges of the mat, the corners of the mat. From here, imagine that shoulder blade gliding down and around and back and under. And then breathe through those serratus muscles and push those arms away. And can you begin to find the work in the upper back? And maybe you can engage the muscles of the legs a little bit more. Engage the abdominals a little bit more. I invite you to take 1 more breath here. On that next inhale, let that right leg come all the way up. And drawing the gaze forward, round the shoulders a little bit, tuck the tummy, and bring that foot in between the hands. Let that back knee tap down and up. Explore the stretch in the psoas, what's going on in the front of the hip. And then as you're ready, just drop that back knee to the mat, top of the foot to the mat. Sweep the arms up, find your lunge, and bring those arms into cactus. So from cactus, round the shoulders a little bit forward. And then rotate those shoulder blades, settle into cactus. From here, find a twist, just turning to the inside of that front leg. So again, working the muscles of the upper back, middle back a little bit. Nice deep breath in. Can you get a little taller? Exhaling, find your deeper twist. 1 more time here. If you're struggling with balance, think about the inner thighs drawing together. And then as you're ready, release. Sweep the arms all the way up, palms together. Exhale, hands to either side of that foot. Go ahead and raise that back leg. Bring the front foot to the back. Meet me in plank. And from plank, come down to your knees, tilt the hips. Draw knees to rib cage and push into downward dog. So that's one way to get into downward facing dog from plank. Shake your head out, no and yes. Make downward facing dog strong again. Maybe there's a little bit extra weight on the outside of the hand. What are the muscles of the upper back doing? How about those quadriceps, drawing the knees up towards the hips? Deep breath in, left leg rises high. As the gaze comes forward, create some space. Bring the foot through and bring that back knee down and up. 3 times here, tap it out. And as you're ready, that back knee comes down, top of the foot to the mat. And take a deep breath in and rise up into your lunge. So again, cactus arms here. And then just to sort of realign and use the muscles or the musculature of that shoulder girdle correctly, start a little bit forward and then rotate those shoulder blades wide and down and under and find cactus arms here. Deep breath in, lengthening through the spine, top of the head rises. Exhale, find twist. Again, deep breath in. Exhale into your twist. One more time. Exhale into twist. And stay here for a breath. And again, can you feel the work in the muscles of the upper back? As you're ready, release. Hands come down to either side. Raise that back leg up. Float the front foot to the back. Meet me in plank. And then another way to go to downward facing dog is just to kind of roll over your toes. And draw the hips back to where the ceiling meets the wall. And shake your head out, no, and yes. And find your breath. And then as you're ready, let that right leg rise to the sky. Deep breath in, foot comes all the way forward, rise up into your lunge. Find those cactus arms. Again, a little bit forward. Big movement back. Settle as those arms come out. Find your twist. Find your balance here. One more deep breath here. Exhale, twist a little deeper. Breathe in. Exhale, release. I invite you to come forward, interlace the fingers, press the palms forward and up. Bring the palms together. Deep breath in. And then exhale, drawing the hands behind to the small of the back. Round those shoulders back and find your first back bend. And how does this feel today? On the next inhale, arms rise. Exhaling, hands come down to the mat. Back foot floats forward. Meet me in forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. And exhaling, come down. Taking a deep breath in, rise all the way up to mountain. And exhale, hands down to the side. Find chair pose. Settle into chair. Deep breath in, push the arms up a little bit. Exhale, soften at the joint. One more inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhaling, come back to your plank. I invite you to come all the way down to the mat. And maybe you find an upward facing dog as those hands slide down towards the hips. As the chest comes forward and you push up with those arms and press down with the hands and down with the feet. Shins are off the mat. Begin to open up through the chest, tucking those shoulder blades under. And then roll over the toes, meet me in downward facing dog. And shake your head out, no and yes. Deep breath in, left leg rises high. Drawing the gaze forward, float the foot through. Rise into lunge. Exhale, arms come into cactus. Rotate a little bit forward, a little bit back. Settle. Deep breath in. Can you get a little taller through the spine? Exhale. Find your twist. Deep breath in, lengthen. Exhale, twist. One more time. Where do you feel the work? I invite you to come forward, interlace the fingers, press the palms out, and bring them all the way up. And then exhaling, hands to the small of the back. Draw the shoulders a little bit forward and then back. Find your back bend. Deep breath in, arms rise, exhaling, hands to either side of the foot. Back foot comes to the front, meet me in forward fold. Shake your head out, no and yes. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down. And take a deep breath in and come all the way up to mountain. And push those arms up. And exhale and meet me in chair pose. And settle into chair. And again, can you find the work across the upper back? Can you soften the shoulder joints? Notice the rotation of the palms. Can the palms be facing towards each other, those thumbs reaching towards the back corners of the mat? As you're ready, exhaling, forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and one leg back and then the other and meet me in plank and exhale down to the mat. And find your back bend wherever you are and meet me in downward facing dog. Stay in downward dog and check in. How does the body feel, particularly the upper back and shoulder girdle, but noticing also legs and hips, neck. Maybe you release a little more tension as you shake your head out, no and yes. Deep breath in, right leg rises high. Drawing the gaze forward, bring the foot all the way through, rise into your lunge. Find your cactus. One time only, find your twist back. Meet me back at center, raise the arms overhead, float that back foot to warrior one. So the outside edge of the mat, nice and wide. Stay here for a breath. And then take your hands behind you. So interlacing the fingers, begin to press down and just kind of notice, how open is the chest here. And then I invite you to let the hands come down to the side, to roll the shoulder blades a little bit forward, to rotate them around and back, then clasp the arms. Is there a difference? Taking a nice deep breath here, hinge forward at the hip and begin to find humble warrior. Arms rising up, head coming down, surrendering to God's plan and God's timing. Shaking your head out, no and yes. One more breath here. Engaging through the shoulders and the back, slowly unwind the arms. Bring them all the way up, hands to heart. And float the back foot to the front and meet me in mountain. And settle in mountain and just check in and just notice, how are the feet connected to the mat? How does the body feel right side compared to left after that warrior one sequence? Taking a deep breath in, let the arms rise up. Hands down, sink into that chair pose. Hands to heart, forward fold. Shake your head out, no and yes. Hands to shins, come up halfway. Come down to forward fold, stay here and just gently let the body rotate to one heel and then around to the other and just feel the mat underneath your fingertips, and there's no rules here. Just finding what feels good. And then as you're ready, finding that stretch. One more time, hands to shins, exhaling, come down, one leg back and then the other, meet me in plank. And from plank, I invite you to come all the way down to the mat. Slide those hands back as the chest comes up and through. And meet me in downward facing dog. So be intentional. How are the hands rotated? Are the fingers pointing straight forward? Are they pointing towards the front corners of the mat? Are all 10 toes of the feet pointing forward? Find that deep breath in. Find that exhale. One more breath here. And that next inhale, left leg rises high. Drawing the gaze forward, create some space and float that foot through and rise into your lunge. And then bring those arms out and into cactus. And let the arms rise and float that back foot to warrior one and bring the hands behind you. Round the shoulders a little bit forward, a little bit back, and then interlace the fingers. Find your back bend from here. And how open is the chest? And what sensations do you feel underneath the feet? Maybe the inner thighs can draw in and towards each other a little more. Maybe the abdominals can stretch a little more. Taking a deep breath in, arms rise. Come forward from the hip as you come into humble warrior. Engage the abdominals and shake the head out, no and yes. And find breath here. And as you're ready, release. Bring those arms up, palms together, step into extended mountain. Exhale the hands down to your side, find your chair pose. Settle here and notice. What do you feel in the body? What's going on in your mind? Just noticing it. And hands to heart, forward fold. And shake your head out, no and yes. And hands to shins, come up halfway and exhale down and one leg back and then the other and meet me in plank. And from plank, come down to the mat. And slide those hands back as the chest comes through and meet me in upward facing dog. And roll over those toes as you come back, meeting me in downward dog. And stay here and check in. How can you make the pose stronger? Where can you find release? Is there still a bubble of air in the palm of each hand? Taking a deep breath in, right leg rises high. Gaze forward, foot comes all the way through, rise up into your lunge. This time come into a low twist. Palms together, hinge at the hips. Exhale and bring the arms across, and I invite you to open up those arms. And again, can you engage the muscles of the back, creating traction as this lower arm presses against the leg and the leg presses against the arm. Maybe the gaze comes to the sky. I invite you to bring your arm forward, reach the shoulder forward, draw the shoulder all the way back. Now bring that arm up again. Where do you go? Did it change? As you're ready, exhale. Release hands to either side. Bring that back foot to warrior one. Rise into your warrior one. Bring those hands behind you. Start by rotating the shoulders a little forward. Draw them back. Then interlace the fingers. Find your back bend. From the back bend, find humble warrior. And shake your head out, no and yes. What are you hoping for? Offer it up in prayer. And as you're ready, gently bring those arms down. Sweep them all the way up, hands to heart. Back foot comes to the front. Meet me in extended mountain as the arms rise. Exhale as the hands come down, meet me in chair pose. One more inhale. Forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway, and exhaling, come down, and feet to the back of the mat, and find your plank, and plank to the mat, and find your back bend, and Sphinx and low cobra are options. Find your back bend, and meet me in downward dog. And find your breath. What do you notice? On the next inhale, left leg rises high. And gaze forward, create some space, and float that foot through and rise into your lunge. And exhale, hands to heart, and hinge at the hips and find the twist. And maybe you open up the arms, so just start here. And notice how it feels, and use the traction of that lower arm. And then bring that top arm parallel to the floor and reach it forward. And then rotate that shoulder blade back and under, and then raise that arm up. What do you notice? As you're ready, exhaling, bring hands to either side of the foot. Float the back foot to warrior one stance, wide and angled slightly forward, and rise into warrior one. And exhale those hands down to the side, shoulders a little forward. Big movement back, interlace the fingers. Where does your back bend go now? Maybe the elbows can reach side to side. Can you feel the muscles of the upper back working? And then deep breath in, arms rise. Whoops, bring those hands behind you. Arms are rising, but they're still interlaced. Humble warrior as you draw forward. Let the head come down, the knuckles to the sky. Engage the inner thighs, the abdominals, let the head hang heavy. Again, surrendering into God's plan and God's perfect timing. As you're ready, the arms come down and all the way back up, and hands to heart, and this time that back foot comes up to the front, meeting me in mountain. Let's just stay here, hands to heart. Check in. What do you notice? What's your quality of breath? Can you feel the beating of your heart? What do you notice in the body? I invite you to take your hands to your side and just sink into chair pose, but this time take the hands behind. And again, just notice how open is the chest, but maybe if you draw those shoulders up and over and then out and back, maybe that changes. And then straighten out the legs and hinge at the hips and come into a forward fold with those arms rising high. Again, making any modifications for your range of motion, your shoulder joints. Shake your head out no and yes. Engaging through the abdominals and using those core muscles, slowly float those arms back down and unwind them and bring them to the floor and shake your head out no and yes. And bring your forearms behind you and your hands to your Achilles and push your calves back into your arms and your arms forward into your calves and let the top of the head hang towards the mat. Shake the head out, and can you breathe expansively into that upper back? As you're ready, hands to the mat. Go ahead and bring one foot back and then the other and meet me in plank. And the knees come down and child to table twice. And as you're ready, draw hips to heels and forehead to the mat. And staying in child, adjust the legs and get comfortable. Maybe the big toes are together, the knees a little wider, or maybe the shins are parallel to each other. I invite you to take your hands behind you, palms up, and bring your thumb across your hand and knuckles to the sky. You're making a fist here. And draw those knuckles up and take a deep breath in. And exhale and let the entire body relax as those hands open. The body melting over the legs. And do that twice more. Deep breath in, knuckles up. And exhale. And one more time. Settle here and find breath. Maybe you can soften the forehead, massaging it out side to side. Relaxing the muscles of the upper back as the shoulders soften and drape over the knees. Relaxing the muscles of the lower back and hips as well. One more breath here. As you're ready, go ahead and bring those hands underneath the shoulders and rise up. Come to a seated position, bringing the feet forward. Go ahead and bring a block near your hips, a little bit behind, and gently just let the knees drop side to side, finding a little bit of release in the hips as you massage them out in the lower back with this lower body twist. As you're ready, bring the feet towards each other. Come onto your back. Hands down at the side, palms down. I invite you to tuck under and find your first bridge. Notice first the way the back feels, the way you have connected to the mat, and then rise up, tilting the hips, gently bringing the back up. And slowly exhale down. Can you control the movement? Maybe it's very smooth. Maybe it feels a little clunky. What do you notice as you inhale up? As you exhale down? And then as you're ready, take a deep inhale, hips rising up to the sky. Stay here. I invite you to interlace your hands. So again, can you draw those shoulders a little bit up and then back? And maybe this doesn't work for you, and that's fine. Again, adjust for you. But maybe those hands are interlaced and the palms are coming towards each other and reaching towards the heels. Find your breath. One more breath here. Let the hands come softly to the mat. Slowly come down out of your bridge. Settle here back on the mat. Notice how the body feels, how you have settled. As you're ready, bring those arms up, cross one arm in front of the other, give yourself a hug, reaching for your rib cage. Maybe you touch, maybe you don't, doesn't matter. And if you want a little more stretch in the upper back, just bring those arms wider, fingers reaching towards the sides of your mat. And as you're ready, unwind, bring those arms out to the side and then hug yourself with the other arm on top. So again, just starting with the arms around the body. And then if you want more, beginning to walk those fingers out, finding breath. As you're ready, release. Arms come down to the side, palms up. Gently turn your head side to side. Notice how the back feels, how it is connected to the mat. And gently bring bring the hips up and slide this block underneath the back. So the block is going to be above the tailbone, below the spine. It is under the sacrum bone. And it should feel good, so adjust accordingly. Maybe the palms are up as you open up your heart. And as you stay here, I'm going to read this psalm, not the entire psalm, but a lot of it. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea into jars. He puts the deep into storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the people of the world revere him. For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples. But the plans of the Lord stay firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. And blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he chose for his inheritance. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love, to deliver them from death and to keep them alive in famine. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. In him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in his holy name. May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in you. Stay here for 3 more breaths. Whenever you're ready, put a little weight into the heels, into the base of the shoulders. Lift up just enough that you can remove that block and come to the mat. Stay here for a breath or 2, noticing how the back has responded. And then bring hands to knees and knees into the rib cage and away, back and forth here, just rocking a little bit as you restore a more neutral position of the spine, a natural arch to the lower back. And as you're ready, extend the legs long. Bring those arms up to the sky, reach the palms up and let the shoulders thump down, and do that twice more. As you're ready, let the hands come down, palms up. And gently just turn your head side to side from the top of one arm up and over the top of the other. And settle here and find breath. I invite you in Shavasana today to let your heart cry out. and to also to take strength in the knowledge that God is good and God is faithful and that his ways are best. I invite you to stay here if you can. If you need to move on with your day, gently bring movement back, beginning to wiggle fingers and toes. Rotate wrists and ankles, turning your head side to side. And that next inhale, bring arms up and overhead and reach as long as you can. Fingers to one wall and toes to the next. As you're ready, gently bend your knees and roll over onto your side and let your head come over to your arm. Find breath. And that next inhale, press into your hands and rise up to sitting, crossing your ankles. Find a comfortable seated position and check in one final time, body, mind, and soul. What has changed since you came to the mat today? Notice also what has stayed the same. And that next inhale, arms rise up and overhead, palms together, and exhaling, hands to heart. Join me in prayer. Father, it is so hard to wait, especially when we can't see any movement forward or any changes. We love the way that you are reflected in nature. And just as that tree bloomed after 10 years, we know that there is always hope in you. And so today we hold on to that hope and we wait with joy, knowing that when your victory is revealed, it will be more than anything we could have ever imagined. It is in your name that we pray. Amen. Thank you for practicing with me today.